Well, I'm just a normal guy.
Oh, I doubt that very much.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I kind of grew up in this, born in Nebraska, grew up in Iowa here, northwest corner.
Right on.
Some people might know of Okoboji, Iowa. That's essentially where I'm at. Big tourist destination. And I've done a little bit of everything, and kind of a jack of all trades and trying to master one is what is what it's kind of like now.
Right.
And HVAC just happens to be that one. So,
and how long have you been in the HVAC world, and how did you get into it?
It's been about 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I was working for a Caterpillar dealership on generators in our capital, about 3.5 hours away. And met my now wife. And then so I was looking to come back home. And so she knew a guy. And so the rest was history, I guess.
Gotcha. And so what do you do with HVAC?
So in my current position, I work for wholesale, and I work the counter, but I'm also everything HVAC related. So technical help, sales, design, yada, yada, yada. And education, I guess I should say.
Oh, right. And so do you deal with customers directly, or is it mostly B2B?
Well, not to the end user, just the contractors, the primary. Every great once in a while, I'll meet the homeowner, but not very often.
Right on. So how did you get turned on to HVAC 2.0?
Creeping.
Like we all do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I was on HVAC school group, and man, I don't even know how I found that group, other than maybe just kind of, quote unquote, Facebook, Google search HVAC. I don't know. I really don't know how I found it, but it was great because my eyes have been forever open. And yeah, it's just nuts. So hanging out in there and just kind of, asking questions and, not being an idiot and thinking I know everything. And lo and behold, this Nate Adams guy pokes in, and he starts talking a lot of things about sizing and, yada, yada, that I've heard for, essentially years now from when my first NCI, National Comfort Institute class.
Gotcha.
And and so then, ended up associating with him, got suckered into buying his book.
That's how it is, right?
Yeah.
I got into it too. So
yeah, and then when the book's been great, well, particularly the chapters. I mean, I enjoyed the book thoroughly too, but the chapters, like I've been on my brother down in Omaha for a while. Lives in a 60s house, I think. Nice setup, but it's 60s, original construction. And I've heard for years and it's got a heat pump, the whole 9 yards, and I've heard about the electric bill for years. And something we were talking last week, and we were getting in on it, and I made him look at one of his bills, this last one from the cold snap that we had down here. And he's like, wow. he never doesn't pay money. It's on a budget pay type deal. So it's just, a lot of for the same 12 months.
Yeah.
And so he never really looked at the usage, and he's just blown away by how bad it was. And so I flipped him what did I do? I think I gave him HVAC 101 first. Yeah. He read that and like, oh, that was good. So then I gave him Home Comfort 101.
Yeah.
He was working on that, and somewhere in between there, he starts Googling blower door companies, in the area, and he found one in Lincoln, I think it was. So he's going to give them a call, and yeah, he's just mind blown. And he's like, man, all that money I've wasted. And I'm like, feels like you kicked in the noids there, didn't it? He's
That's
like,
right.
Yeah, pretty much.
You learn, right? You got to things too. Okay, and so you've been with HVAC 2.0 since the early adopter round, I'm guessing.
Yeah, actually, I think I was messing around with it when it was, or I knew of it when it was the HP yet.
Yeah, home performance.
And then I really, is because I'm not a contractor, I had really no intention of joining. I wouldn't get to use it, I didn't think.
Sure.
And then I don't as much as I obviously could if I was a contractor, but Nate squeezed me into it anyway, and it's been good. And I've been grateful for it since. So,
So what was your life like? Because your perspective is very interesting to me, especially as sort of a wholesaler to contractors, right? So what was life like before HVAC 2.0?
that's that's a good question. I was kind of on the same path anyway. Like I said, the NCI class, I call it my saving grace in a career fashion. And because when I started and I got into the industry, and my only experience was I had remodeled my own house, and I'd watched Homes on Homes, and and then as even a little kid, I remember being at my neighbors playing with the kids. And then I'd sat down in the living room while their dad was watching this old house. So it's weird. It's like something that was just been in me. And I played with Lincoln Logs and Legos and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a weird story, but obviously it's evolved into where I'm at now. So it's been kind of cool that way. And so I've already been on the path to try and do, better and right and all that stuff. And I think the HVAC 2.0 just kind of like gave it a process. And then with the Sandler background, as as I try and partake in that information, it gives you confidence in dealing with like tough situations that I was in well, it wasn't my tough situation, but it was one of the contractors' tough situations. And it gave me the confidence to, attack it, head on and set it straight.
So what is it about the HVAC 2.0 does those things, like give you the confidence, give you the process? And maybe you can explain with the example that you used with a contractor. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that situation.
Yeah. So, it's how do you deal with, well, and like in my situation is like, how do you deal with somebody else's problem? And and it's customer based, also, that's the real hang up for me. And because I don't like conflict. It's like, dude, it's not worth it to me. and so it teaches you to analyze the whole subject, not the person, and more so than the house. But there, where I'm at, I don't do a big in-depth, like CPP, I guess, but but you just try and soak it all in.
You are a wholesaler, and your contractor comes and gets some HVAC stuff from you, and then goes and installs it at a customer's house, and then he doesn't follow. Obviously, he or she is not an HVAC 2.0 contractor,
right?
And so at the end of the day, the customer is not happy, and then they call you.
Or the contractor did, because the contractor couldn't satisfy
the
homeowner. That might be the best way of saying it.
Yeah.
And
you showed up.
What was that?
And then you went in to see if you could.
Yeah. So he's like, would you just, come in and look at it or whatever and make sure, it's in spec and so that's really, as my goal, that's or my position, my primary concern is, yes, is it within operating conditions?
Right.
And this one, it did happen to be, or was able to be set up in operating conditions, but there's a list of install errors, maybe you might say, or things that I wouldn't have done or agreed with. And, and I think it eventually affected the homeowner's happiness, or what his expectations.
Right.
He enjoyed the last furnace that he had, and by technical definitions it was oversized too, but it was quiet, but there was slop in the motor, as PSEs do, and so it just worked out good for him for where it was at, and he didn't know any different. So then the new system gets put in, and I reference it as a young stallion pinned up, waiting to wage war against the world until it's set free. And because that's what it sounds like when you walk in. I mean, the thing's just roaring, it's vibrating to beat hell, and it's just like it needs to be let out of its cage.
Man,
And you know,
I,
so yeah, we
I
got it
gotta
to calm down, but there's still some issues.
I gotta say, I'm in Canada, but you Americans are really good, colorful with your analogies. Painting a picture with your analogies. I love it. Okay, so with HVAC 2.0 in your toolkit, right? How
Yeah.
does it change your relationship with your contractors now that you're like a little more well versed in the process?
Well, I don't think I've got to flex it that much with
Mm,
a lot of them.
yep.
So I've got one of our larger contractors. His ears are perked up with the blower door and sizing and stuff like that, and you know, and even to the point where I think they finally went out and finally bought all static pressure tips to start checking static pressure.
Nice.
And so he wants a demonstration of the blower door, and so in that process, I'm going to inject. You know, it's natural, it'd be unnatural not to inject the HVAC 2.0 process at that point, to at least to get them in that. So because it does all the work for you. I mean, you don't have to know what to say with the questionnaire. Like Nate's, the whole design behind it is just to an entry level guy can take it and run with it.
Yeah.
So I hope to get some guys turned on to that too.
Gotcha. And are you noticing just with the own stuff that you keep tracking, right? As a wholesaler, are you noticing any big difference in like your sales numbers, or just maybe your contractor's relationship with you, or their relationship with their customers? I know you said you don't flex the HVAC 2.0 yet, but maybe are you building towards flexing it a little bit more?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've dropped it a hint here and there, and then I try and spread the chapters through different emails, and I use Nate's chunks of like the shower pitcher in the boat, hole in the boat. So yeah, I'm injecting it wherever I can, just because it's great. It's perfect.
Oh, so
It really helps people make understand it. Like my brother was just like, yeah, he's just like he said, he's like, my mind's blown.
And he's not even a contractor, right? So he's just
no, I don't even know what he does, but I think he tests like nuclear water for nuclear activity or something in a power plant. So
cool. So because you talk to a lot of contractors, right? It seems to me, looking at, because I'm not a contractor myself, but so looking at HVAC 2.0 contractors from the outside, so to speak, or just in the inside looking in, it seems like, to me, it feels like HVAC 2.0 may not be for everyone, and that's probably a good thing. In some ways, there's a certain kind of contractor. There's a process I feel like contractors go through before they latch on to doing blower door testing to the HVAC 2.0. Like, what do you think it takes for a contractor to get there?
I think the biggest hurdle for about any contractor is time.
Yeah.
I don't got time. I mean, I've heard, for years,
Mm-hmm.
I don't got time. Well, and my boss made a great point on one thing we got involved in another city, one of our other branches, but he told the guy, he's like, you're sitting here complaining about not having time to do it right the first time, but yet you've managed to find time to come back time and time again to try and make it right.
Yeah.
It was something along them lines. I was like, that's perfect. I mean, that's and so, and I think somebody might have had the slide at the symposium, but I think it was like the screen was cut off. But I think and I picked up on it a while ago on the internet somewhere, and it's like a caveman era. And you got two guys dragging a skid, full of rocks and whatnot, and you got a salesman behind them with a wheel, and they're like, no, we're good, we're okay, we're busy. And so I use it. It's great. I'm like, man, that's perfect, because it's like before you know it, evolution, it will pass you by, and you'll be in the Stone Ages.
Right.
And I'm just, and so it's just, it's supposed to be an eye opener. It's just like, you got to take some time to advance, and you don't have to lead the way, but, get involved, because you're killing yourself. I mean, here you are with a skid when you got a tire behind you.
Right. And so with contractors, then, they spend so much time on doing, like, I guess, cleanup service calls because they don't do it right the first time, but don't often maybe account for how much time they spend on just doing like service calls. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I can think. I don't get too involved in them, deeply as far as in knowing what they're doing, but we all know how it works. I mean, I was lucky enough to work for a guy that was, he tried to do the best thing every time and run a sharp business. So I was like, I had my eyes opened up really well on the way he did it and the classes that he had taken, and so I was like, I had a high standard, set before me really.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I just took a position to where I try and bring everybody else up to a better standard than where they're at too.
Fantastic. And what would you tell them? Like I mean, you said you already said you kind of plant the seed and like nudge them a little bit in this direction, but if you had a contractor who was like kind of up and coming, you knew they took their stuff seriously, like what advice would you give them?
HVAC 2.0.
Why?
Because, well, like you said, they're up and coming, and like we've got one that sounds like he is coming, and and he's already interested in the modulating equipment, and so he's not going to be afraid of it. And he attended one of the education things I did on evacuation, so he's already got the blue hoses, and so he sounds like a good one we want to stay on top of, and hopefully he evolves to be quite a great business and a guy. And and it's just I think it's time. It's just you got to go slower and more efficiently to go faster. And because everybody's scavenging not for work but for employees, and it's not going to get any better in my opinion anytime soon anyway. And so there's it's all the more reason to slow down and work out your kinks in your processes and get them smoother and speed up in that time frame. You slow down a little bit at first, but then once you get the smooth ball rolling, it's all downhill from there, or uphill.
And that's where the HVAC 2.0 process comes in, I guess, based on what you're saying, is because there may be contractors who like individual elements of it. Like, okay, they know that they have to do the blower door. There might be some people who be trying to rethink their sales process. But to me, it sounds like you're saying what HVAC 2.0 does is that this is a method that's been tested by other techs, and it gives you that kind of blueprint to say, this is why you do this is why you do this, next you do this, next you do that. So you don't have to spend all this mental energy and time trying to come up with the process. There's a process that already kind of works, and you just need to adapt it. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. I mean, and there's a lot of truth in it. And like, and I come in behind contractors, and so in some fashions, it's hard to inject the process. At least I haven't found an easy way into it. Like I did start the conversation with just the 4 questions, and try to get him to answer those to the point where I felt it would be viable to run through the whole process. And he just didn't quite open up. But as we sat there and talked, and I told the contractors, like, I'm not there for solutions. This visit is strictly for gathering information. And it worked out great. But at the same time, as I come back and I start analyzing stuff, I'm like, crap. I was like, what do I need to do there? It's like, well, what if we would have tested it this way? Or it's just like, there's some things that unfolded that I wasn't expecting. And it's just like, and so I put it in the report. I'm like, I'm not sure what to think of this, but here we go.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So so I'm trying to rely on the process as much as possible, because it really makes the job easier to turn around and reflect it. But because of it, is like I the process is as I think back on the conversation that I had with the customer, I should say, the end user. I started recognizing pain points, and while he was cold sitting in front of the windows that faced the lake in the dead of winter, he expected it. So, it wasn't an issue per se because he expected it.
Yeah.
And also, the equipment doesn't run long enough to help, show him that it doesn't have to be so uncomfortable.
Right.
So it's just like some quirks that I'm picking up as I'm running through that. And then I had another one here just the other day that we went and did, and it was kind of a similar situation. And it's just like, the process is golden.
Right on. And so when you're talking so I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about our own internal process, right? With HVAC 2.0, like the onboarding, the software, the process, the whole 9 yards, the Monday calls and everything. Is there something we could be doing as a group, as a team, that would help support your work better? Is there something that we're not doing now that you feel like we could be doing?
No, I don't think that would be. I don't think there's anything. See, I'm also, because I'm not like active in it, there's like, and I got a short attention span and the whole 9 yards. So it's like, if my hands aren't on something, I'm off the place. So, and then with like the start of it was the HVAC school. And then when I took on this job here, it's just like things evolved around to where I've learned so much in the last 5 years. I just can't even put my mind around it. And it's been fast paced. And so in a lot of ways, I mean, the HVAC 2.0 process isn't any different. I mean, there's just so much to consume. And then when I'm just like I told everybody at some point, I'm just essentially, I call myself the cheerleader of the group.
Ah, nice.
I'm rooting for the team, go boys, let's do it. And so I get to play HVAC 2.0 from time to time. And so, like I said, it's been great. And I don't know of any, I don't really have a lot of advice as far as how you can make it onboarding better, and with opening eyes or whatever. I mean, it's timing. It's just like, man, you could be told the truth 5,000 times and never let it sink in until that one moment. And then you're like, whoa, so. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm just trying to plant seeds at this point. That's
all right, Ryan. Thanks a lot, man.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, have a nice weekend, eh?
Yeah, you too. Hey, bye.